Well, all right then. I asked you to take me to school, and you took me right on to school, didn't you?
There's one last thing that I need to tell you about,
Okay.
and that's the Fiancra project.
Okay.
Fiancra is a word that descends from the Akan people, and there's an Adinkra symbol that it represents. But anyway, I can't think of the exact translation. But anyway, the Fiancra project is a project whereby Africans in the diaspora that want to come home to Ghana can do so. There's been several hundred acres of land designated by the Ghanaian government for Africans in America that want to come. And from my understanding, there's a very nominal price that you pay in terms of maybe like for taxes perhaps or upkeep for a 3-year period. And when I say nominal, I'm talking $500–600 for a 3-year period. The catch being that within that 3-year period, you need to have started clearing that land. You need to have started to build a structure on that land. But for our young people, I met a young brother while we traveled up to Akasambo, where this land is. In fact, the gentleman who is the caretaker for that land was here in Alabama recently. You did some footage of him down at Alabama State.
Oh,
I got a
yeah.
chance to meet him.
Very good.
So, you know, there are opportunities for people, young and old. I mean, if you want to retire, I mean, the physical beauty of Africa is breathtaking. You know, from the Volta region up near the Volta River to the coast, you know, it's a beautiful land. But the Fiancra project will allow you to actually have a home in Ghana if you choose. And while I was there, I met a beautiful young brother who just graduated from FAMU several years ago, architecture student who had went to Ghana to visit and has been there almost a year.
Did he get hooked?
He got hooked and is building this beautiful little structure, sustainable living structure out of the natural environment and using his architectural skills, and is looking for, you know, people to come and join him. So there are all kinds of exciting things going on the continent right now. And I guess the last thing I would say would be...
And before you leave
yes.
that, they're not talking about you got to just come and hook yourself in. They're talking about dual citizenship.
Well, let me explain that. I'm glad you brought that up, because that was one of the things that I was most kind of disillusioned about, because that was what I had been led to believe, and that was what the impression was that was being given. But in reality, those African Americans who have been in Ghana, some of them 20 years, were very upset about, you know, the fact that they are not being offered dual citizenship.
Okay.
There was something that was just passed by the Ghanaian government recently that says that if a Ghanaian, a native-born Ghanaian, had left Ghana and taken up citizenship, say in the United States, and had given up Ghanaian citizenship, then they could have dual citizenship. But dual citizenship is not being offered to African Americans who want to come and invest in Ghana. Like the woman that I stayed with, she and her husband had been there 18 years and, you know, invested in that community, you know, just, I mean, have done a lot to, you know, build the economy. There are a lot of African Americans who've done that. In fact, I met one brother who just moved from Atlanta. They're an older gentleman, he and his wife. And so that's something that they're working on. But I think that they're, like here, there's a lot of fear and mistrust. And to just open up dual citizenship to us would upset the political balance in Ghana tremendously. You know, you can just imagine 10,000 of us deciding we're going to come, and the next thing you know, you got an African-American Ghanaian president. Mm-hmm. You know, it could happen. And so I guess they're trying to find a way to work all of the kinks out before they just, you know, open that up. But that was one of the things that I was very disillusioned about, because I had gotten the impression that, you know, dual citizenship was being offered.
And that's the impression I got down at Alabama State University.
Exactly. Yes, but it was not. It's not. In fact, the brother that you interviewed, he and I had the same conversation. So they're working on it. It is not a reality as of today.
Okay. Any regrets?
None.
For having gone?
None. None. That is something that I am just, you know, I will carry that experience with me forever. And I'm going to let you in on a little secret. I'm going back.
Hey, that's no secret to
I'm
me.
going
I could
back.
have guessed that one.
I'm going back.
Well, now,
the Du Bois Center. I visited the W.B. Du Bois Center while I was there, and that was one of the goals that I had for myself when I went, because I had a lot of admiration for W.B. Du Bois, and I can remember as a child, there's even this poem about W.B. and Booker T, where, the powers that be like to try to pit us against each other.
Definitely.
And the more I read, the more I understood that they were not so much diametrically opposed as they just had different versions of the same truth.
Absolutely.
And so I was able to visit his gravesite. I don't think that's the one other thing I wanted to share, but, it'll have to do for now.
All right. So now, help us out on cost. Give me a ballpark figure of what it takes for a person to leave here. How many days did you stay?
I stayed in Ghana 14 days, 2 weeks.
Okay, 2 weeks. So what's a ballpark cost estimate?
Okay, for me, I did it a lot cheaper than I initially thought I was going to be able to, simply because I'm one of those people that tries to follow Spirit's guidance. And so instead of going with the touring company, I hooked up with IMACUS at One Africa. So my lodging at the chalet at One Africa was $40 a night, very reasonable, which included a continental breakfast. She had arranged for us to stay 2 days in Kumasi at the hotel that I spoke about. Reasonable first-class hotel. I think we paid $60 American dollars per night for that. My plane ticket was $1,900, and if I had gotten it earlier, it probably would have been cheaper. And I flew straight through. Well, I flew from Atlanta to Washington, and then from Washington, and we stopped briefly in New York, but a non-stop flight from D.C., with the exception of that one little stop in New York, straight to Accra. So $1,900 round trip. There were, there's the costs incurred, from your immunizations, and of course, if you don't have a passport, that's about $67. Your visa is a nominal fee. I got a multiple entry visa, which was, I think, maybe $80.